It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Your independence to me, Ernest Hancock. Oh, we're continuing our series on Generation Next. Generation Next, which is what we're counting on to, maintain and enhance our freedom and the lifestyle to which we have become accustomed here in America. And it counts on raising sons and daughters to raise their sons and daughters so you don't have to be a parent to your grandchildren. I mean, that's kind of been my goal. So this has been a really important issue. When we started, we start seeing advertisements and certainly to the email dispatch, we have ads to subscribers, and you'll see the preparation promotion of the book by Doug Casey and Matt Smith. Doug Casey is a wealthy anarcho-capitalist, been New York Times best-selling since like late 70s, 80s. It's a thing. Well, he's older now, but, he's still at it. And he knew that he needed to write this book, and he finally did. And I chastised him for taking so long. But, this is all about a 16-phase, 3-month each phase, which turns to 4 years. Instead of going to university, going to college and get, indoctrinated, he's like, no, man, you need to be, competent, confident, and dangerous. So I'm going, okay, why that dangerous? You need to be capable of being dangerous, I can tell you that. So there's a lot of things in it, like becoming a sailor, learning to be a cowboy, being a pilot. Make sure you know how to, start a fire, some medical training, self-defense. Now, Maxim is Matt Smith, the co-writer and a co-host on a podcast with Doug Casey, that Matt Smith has a son named Maxim. Maxim is 20 years old. I knew him when he was like 15, 16 years old. And he's, instead of going to college, he's doing this program, The Preparation. It's a big hardback coffee table book. I mean, it is, packed full of philosophy and why you should. That's one thing. Nobody even asks why anymore. You got it because the lab coat and the guy with the shiny badge and got elected and, the gun, with the fine hat said so. You're going to have to give me a bigger reason than that. And I had a lot of headwind as a kid asking why. I'm like, why do it's like, you insolent little bastard, here's some, Ritalin for you. There's something fundamentally been wrong with this country and the direction it's been going. And as we live our lives, as we get experience, as we get like the recent news, the last couple of decades, you can see it was on purpose. There was an intent behind this. So what we've been doing is a series of some of my best friends have been of the same mind, which is why we're good friends, that they knew to be a good father. They were trying to, of course, there's improvements you can always make. Certainly ask my kids, they'll tell you about it. But, my main thing is that raising competent adults. Now, Jay, a good friend, he goes like this. I go, what's the opposite of fear? And he goes, competence. I'm like, whoa, that kind of blew me away, because I'm always no fear, no fear, no fear. Well, what's the opposite of that? I mean, it's not. I'm afraid. Why? Because you're not competent at anything. Competency produces confidence, and then you become, an add to your community, your family. So this is where we're going, and my good friend Robert Anderson, and we may talk about the Charlie Kirk thing because it kind of applies with this, because Donna and I went over there yesterday. He doesn't live too far away. He's out in the desert here, and one of my inspirations for knowing you can do this, and he's very competent in that, above the grid living kind of thing, as is his sons, because they had to. And gosh darn it, you don't turn on the blow dryer, the coffee maker, and the microwave at the same time, So as they grow up, they just go, I just get more solar panels, man. I'm not living like my dad. But anyway, so this is a delve into how he raised his sons. And I saw it happen. You knew what was going to be the result. And now we're going to talk to Danny probably later. He's traveling. He'll be back. We'll get him in. Now, this is Robert. I don't know. Are you junior? Are you a junior, Robert?
I am not a junior. Thank God my father did not curse me with the ending of a junior. I have a couple friends that are like the second or the third, but I'm not. I am Robert Anderson, but I'm not a junior. I usually go by Bobby.
Yeah, I know everybody else calls you Bobby, your friends and so on, but Robert sounds cooler. Anyway, so you got your dad, Bob, and you're Robert. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce Robert here. You kind of got an introduction there of how I know him since he was born. And he was, born, and boom, they moved to the desert. And then I think your brother was born while you guys were out in the desert. And then you guys are a year apart. The accomplishments of these guys is amazing, but it was not by accident. First thing is we kind of noticed if you grow up on well water, your brain don't get rotted. I'm just saying, and you don't have enough fluoride. We checked. So this is one of the main things is certainly eating healthy and so on. But I wanted to have Robert explain his childhood and in comparison with his peers, because really out way in the desert, they had new schools. They had elementary schools that they went to in the city, and they had the high school out here, and they're familiar with their peers that weren't raised the same way they were, and they can give that kind of comparison. But I want to go through how they became the self-sufficient, got a job, doing well, making bank, and they're 20, 21, and there's adults wish they were doing as well as them. That got families, raising kids, and they're not married. So this is going to be an interesting show. That background kind of gives you an idea where I want to go with this, Robert. So would you please kind of give your life story and how you got and where you're at now? But we'll start from the beginning of where, in retrospect, you're what, 21?
I'm 22, going to be turning 23 here in the next probably like 6 months.
All right, that was close. All right, so this is Mr. Birthday. Happy birthday. So this is, what I want to do. I'm just going to hit it to you, man. All right, go. Tell us everything about everything.
So you had my father on here quite a bit, Bob. He started me and Danny off very young, living off grid in Tonopah, Arizona. And it's very, I'd say, it's all on you out there. And I think a lot of people don't really understand that until they come out and see like, oh, we make our own power, we produce our own water, and on the not a rare occasion, but we usually make our own food too. My dad has always been a prepper in the back of his mind, and basically wanted to instill in us being self-reliant is probably the biggest thing you can have in this life. Relying on other people is unreliable. So being able to work competently with not only your mind but your hands was a big proponent of our life. Danny, my younger brother, who you'll have on the show as well, he's a mechanic. He's been mechanically inclined ever since I knew the kid, and he's produced I say the fruits of his labor very well. He's now an aircraft mechanic. He basically kills it in his field, and he's one of the most competent mechanics that I believe is on the West Coast. But for our life, um, living on that property, like you made a joke earlier about not being able to run the hair dryer and the microwave and the air conditioning all at once because you could trip the power. And definitely, I mean, that's just limitations of the time. Our dad built that property in the early 2000s, so technology was limited to say the least. But with those limitations, I think come more character
Understanding.
development. Yeah, come more understanding, more character development in that aspect. It's kind of crazy talking to people who like, lived on the grid or like, had a normal, I'd say normal house in like a town or it's connected to the power grid, is they can just run the power. They never really had any adversity coming up. But I wouldn't even consider living out in Tonopah an adversity. It's more of a blessing. While there were some struggles, I mean, it was kind of like I said, it was all on you to really figure it out. And I think those lessons that you learn are way more important than any education I could have gotten from a school. And that just kind of goes to show now as I've like, gone out into the workforce, gone through college and kind of seen who really has it and who really doesn't. I like to surround my people and my friends have very similar backgrounds, growing up either ranching or on their own property, becoming a Boy Scout, learning to go out in the wilderness by themselves. And those are very smart, very capable individuals. And I'm very glad to have them as friends. And that's just kind of a little reflection of like, there are still people out there that are getting it done the right way.
The one thing that I wanted to, kind of make sure that people understood is that what you're doing is it's interesting in the fact that you didn't complain that much. I don't remember you guys, whining. I mean, you kind of can we turn on the air conditioner, Dad? I mean, that kind of thing. But it's I didn't feel that you guys had a rough life. I mean, when you were really young, you were out moon base out there when they were building the house and doing, kind of getting to a minimum, sustenance. But you guys probably don't even remember that. You were little. I remember.
We were really little. I think a more accurate representation of what it was like moving out there. If you've had Nick on the show quite a bit. He's our older brother, and him and our other older brother Mike. They were kind of the unpaid labor that got the foundation
Right.
of that property running. And I'd like to say like both those men in my life are very capable individuals, and they do really well for themselves as well.
Well, Mike and Nick were their stepchildren, and they were young. They were probably preteen, when your mother and your dad got married, and so they got a big dose, and they were working. Now, Mike is a contract laborer that does for nuclear power plants, doing various things like the Palo Verde here in an outage. So Mike's back from his home in Oklahoma, working there, making bank, and he's knows where everything is out here in the desert. What I need it. Well, I got that, and that'll cost you this much, that kind of thing. So, and he does a lot of concrete work. He has heavy machinery. He's very capable. Nick, went in the Navy. Then he went out Palo Verde doing something with. I started off with whatever he was doing out there.
He was out at Water Wreck, I'm pretty sure, doing working on big valves and making sure that the power plant was getting enough water. That was a big
Right.
thing
So
out
he's the
there.
water guy. Well, what happened was, he had a toy hauler that he was going out to the dunes, out in the big sand dunes in southwestern Arizona and California there, and because he knew solar. I mean, he lived on it, so he pimped out his ride, and he didn't have a generator blaring all the time, and he had a solar. And everybody goes, "Well, I want his rig, man. What the hell?" And it became a business, RV Solar Concept. So he got to the point he has his own battery line, his own. He's making bank. He's doing fine. Well, they're raising their own family, and so those guys kind of got through this. The same kind of training, very confident and capable. But you guys started at birth.
Yeah.
And that was one, and you guys were, very close brothers doing a lot of stuff. And your brother Danny got his by doing a tech training thing through the high school, the public school system.
Yep.
He learned to be an aircraft mechanic. He got his AP, whatever that guy is, airframe and power. So he's working on jets. He's worked on airlines. He's worked to the point within a year or two. He's only just turned 21, and he's now a private company. He and a friend work. He goes and works for a week, somewhere like in Seattle, I think he's doing. Then he comes back for a week. He goes making bank. I mean, the guy's got a job, and he's a pilot, a licensed pilot. He was flying in high school. So this is the kind of, and then Bob bought another plane. He goes, he used to have a plane back when we were young. Then he sold it when he had you guys. Then he got it again for you guys to learn on and become pilot and all that kind of stuff. Then you wound up going to Embry-Riddle, which is a very famous and competent aviation college. But you went a different tack. You decided you wanted to learn Russian, be all cyber tech, super geek, and now you work for Amazon in Florida.
That is correct.
You and your girlfriend, both got the job, went there, kind of, being, and we'll talk about marriage and children later. But anyway, so the thing is that this speed at which and the competence that you guys got, I always ask people that are famous or infamous for a lot of the freedom stuff that they do, and I'm going, why? Why did you care? Why are you doing this? Why does it matter to you? Why? I saw your why. I saw you living it. I saw the indoctrination of the why, That's what I want you to kind of talk about now. You're this way. Why? What happened? What was the influences from your family, your father, your mother, that you became this kind of an adult at 22, 23, that we're going to see, and we already know Generation Next is best represented by the Anderson boys. Why? Help me out, man.
I think the biggest why, I touched on it a little earlier, is I think a lot of people become reliant on things that they cannot control. And like I was talking about on the property, everything there is what we control. We control our water, we control our power. And you see, I think that kind of breeds a little bit of I wouldn't say instability, but a lot of people don't realize like, oh man, if I was without water or power, my life would really suck, and don't know how to fix it. And I think a lot of this proponent was during the COVID lockdowns here in Arizona, because we went on an extended spring break for, they said 2 weeks, and then it ended up being for like 6 months, and it was the elongated summer. And talking to people when I went back to school, I was like, oh, I just got to hang out on my 10 acres and go exploring on dirt bikes and hang out and breathe fresh air. And there was a lot of people that were sequestered to living in their apartment with their parents, or living in their house, and not being able to do a whole lot of anything out of fear for like catching COVID and whatnot. And during those early months, we really didn't know a whole lot other than like, hey, there's a potential of it killing you. And a lot of it was like, luckily we didn't have to worry about it. We didn't have to go anywhere. We didn't have to do anything. We just got to sit there and wait rather comfortably comparatively to our peers. So seeing that, and then like contrasting that with other people's experiences, I think it's a very big indication, like, that's what I want for my life. That's my why, is like, I want to be able to be self-reliant, because as soon as you start relying on something else, you're not really in control of your life. And that's kind of my why from it, is like you gain a lot more agency over your life being competent.
Well, did you think, my dad's so, and he's always so, and he's so until COVID, and you go, hey, my dad's not as dumb as I thought he was?
No. I think, well, as a kid growing up, I mean, you don't really know a whole lot of everything. I mean, me and my younger brother Daniel, we lived through 2008, but like as children, we didn't really, experience it like how other people had experienced it. People getting laid off jobs, the economy taking it in the tank. It was not like, for a lot of people, it wasn't a great experience. Out in Tonopah, it was like life kind of continued on for us. But like our dad has always been a proponent of like, hey, stuff will happen in the future, stuff that we can't control. They like you see policies being passed in the government and laws being passed. Like there are things out here that will definitely affect you coming into your adulthood life that you guys won't have to deal with anymore. You guys will be long gone, but that's gonna be something me and Danny are gonna have to deal with when we become your guys' age. And instilling like the values of my father and the people that I've had the pleasure of learning from, my mentors, and even like professors in college. Like there's a lot more to gain by being having your own agency than being spoon fed. I won't say everything in life because I mean you still got to pay for power when you live in town or water. But like I said, like if that stuff goes away, you're kind of boned at that point in time. So you talked earlier about being competent is the inverse of fear, and I 100% agree with that sentiment. It's I feel like once you find out what you know you don't know, and like kind of expand on that a little bit, you become a lot more dangerous in that aspect. And dangerous is I would say like for some people they look at you and you're just prepared.
Capable.
Yeah, you're capable. Exactly.
Like to be capable of being dangerous.
Yeah.
The one thing that I wanted you also to expand on is in comparison to your peers, because you had a lot of friends. You're a popular guy, and then when you go to Embry-Riddle, that was a different kind of college university. That was, your dad. He saved up for that one. And
Yeah.
it was, and then of course you helped, you worked, and so on. But it was different experience than a lot of people your age had at college and university. Can you describe the difference? Was there a difference? What do you think?
Oh, 100% there was a difference. Go because I had the opportunity to go to the big three out there in Arizona, U of A, ASU, and NAU. But during that time, like COVID and everything coming out of it, and seeing how much they wanted to like control the student body there, like, you got to wear a mask on campus, you got to get vaccinated, this, that, and the other thing. It definitely opened my eyes to like Embry-Riddle's a private what am I saying? Institution. And so the money you directly invest into that corporation, with lack of a better term, you have direct control over you have more control over what you learn, and like direct feedback going to the administration and to your professors, to the entire student body. And that was kind of my big thing because at regular universities, they're publicly funded. They're going to be pushing the public. They're going to be trying to push the public like narrative, without a better way to say it, of like, this is what is true, this is what
Right.
isn't. And that feels more like indoctrination when I really wanted an education. And I feel like a lot of the professors there are very tenured. They have experience working in all sorts of aspects, whether that be cybersecurity, intelligence field, prior military, that you couldn't get anywhere else. And I believe the world, and they brought a lot of great insight into my life and really taught me more like how to think instead of what to think, which I think is missing from a lot of people's lives in today's day and age. And
So
that's kind of
the whole student body there, was that kind of, were you special, or were these people that their families made sure they went there? They went there. It was a different class of adults there at the college. I mean, the faculty, the students, was it different
Yeah,
in
I would
general?
say I would say it's different. Like I said earlier about the professors, they're all tenured in what they do. They all have families. They all have like really good worker experience. But like for a majority of the people that like I met there, like the student body, a lot of them didn't really have like prior engagement with Embry-Riddle. A lot of them wanted to become pilots, and the only way to become that is going through Embry-Riddle, having an accredited college tied to that, especially in the aviation industry. That's aviation based, super big for their career.
Or
But
Air Force?
or Air Force, yes, we have a very big Air Force and Army presence there on campus as well, and they're producing some of the best, like outstanding, capable individuals that I believe are going to be leading our next generation of the military. And I'm very happy to have some of them as my friends as well. They're very capable, very strong individuals. But I feel like just a lot of people were also kind of on the same wavelength of going to like just a state college is one way to blow a bunch of money and not really get anything out of it. And I kind of saw that a little bit with some of the friends that did end up going to ASU, or U of A or NAU. They they get out of college and sometimes they find like a really deep, like sometimes they find a job, sometimes they don't. And I think one of the biggest things I was worried about was not being able to translate the skills I've worked so hard for and spending a lot of money and time on in college to have it not pay out in the long run. Because a lot of people go, I've seen people get full ride scholarships to ASU and then blow it on an arts degree, and then they're a barista or something at Starbucks. And I couldn't live with myself knowing that I'd let people in my family down with that, like putting all this education, time, resources, money into me to make a terrible decision like that. And I wanted a higher education. It was either that or going into the military. And just during that time of COVID, I just was like, I didn't want to take the shot. I didn't want to take the vaccine or anything. So I spent that time really investing in myself and getting a quality education. And like I was talking about earlier, the friends that I kept as well had very similar life experiences working on ranches. Their family members were prior military, and they understand the necessity of being able to provide for yourself, and being able to make your own decisions, even if you don't have all the information. Being able to think for yourself is one of the big things that their family instilled in them. One of my buddies, actually, I'll do a quick little shout out. He just got the privilege of launching a satellite he had been working on for 4 years at that college as like a club thing, but he just launched it on one of Elon's rockets out here in Florida. So I got to go visit him and congratulate him on his launch. And that's a piece of himself, a piece of his brain, a piece of the hard work he's worked on to put that in the low Earth orbit. And kind of like, I think he's going to be doing big things, but basically put a little bit of himself out there into the cosmos, which I think was really dope. And that's just the kind of people that were there at that college. They're high achievers, and they weren't going to get that working at ASU or going to class at ASU or U of A or NAU. That's
I've
just
met
my
some of
opinion.
your friends when you come for the holidays and so on. You bring your friends; they got to come out and hang, and they all seem good guys. They had it together. I was really liked your friends. But the philosophically, there on campus, I don't know if politics, is a thing at university. I mean, you kind of expand your horizons a little bit, but was there a whole lot of that there? And if there was, what was its flavor?
Definitely more conservative flavor on the like politics on campus. A lot of the kids there, like I said, are very independent people. I think we even had Young Americans for Freedom on campus, and they're kind of like a subsidiary of Turning Point USA. And they were a big influence on campus. A lot of people come from conservative families, and they see that way of living, and they or have lived very similar lives to like what me and Danny have lived, and they understand the value of like conservative ideals and being able to like produce for yourself. And that was the biggest thing. A lot of, and like I said, very very patriotic there on campus as well. Like I said, we had a lot of AF ROTC and Air Force ROTC and Army ROTC there. So I think, and a lot of people were coming from veteran households. So there was a big push for freedom on that campus. I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of.
They had a ROTC disease. What is that? What's ROTC, man? Don't go throwing out acronyms for me.
Sorry, ROTC. That's the like officer program there on campus. So if you want to like,
I think it's Reserve Officer Training Corps.
Exactly,
something like that. It's usually on a lot of campuses, even down to high school. But yeah, don't go throwing out acronyms for me. You'll start speaking Russian and stuff.
Sorry.
That's another thing. Russian. What the hell, man? Why did you want to learn Russian?
The biggest, so for my degree, my 4-year degree, they only gave us like 3 options of languages to pick from, and it was Russian, Arabic, or Mandarin. And I always kind of very hard languages to choose from, but Russian for me just kind of stood out for I think because right at the beginning of college they had the whole thing going on in the Russia-Ukraine war, and I was like, I feel like this, like, don't get me wrong, Mandarin's very important, but I felt like at that point in time, like, knowing Russian was going to be very helpful. And I think it's a cool, like, I wouldn't say party trick because that's not what I really did it for, but it's really awesome to be able to, like, yeah, I speak a little Russian, and it kind of throws people off, like you don't know Spanish or anything like that. It's like, I know a little Spanish. I know how to count to 11, but I can do a lot more in Russian than I can do in Spanish. And that was just kind of my aspect of it, was like, I think this is going to pay more dividends than just picking like Spanish or something along those lines. But in the choice that I had, I picked Russian because I think it was going to be the most fun, and I made a lot of good friends through that program as well.
Yeah, the Russian language, as I even delve into it a little bit, is so it doesn't. It's not a Latin base, so it doesn't really have anything common. The syntax, the way the alphabet, everything is different. It's like
Yeah.
learning caveman talk or something. And I'm just, is there any comparison with the Latin-based languages?
I think from the vocab I have, I know biblioteca is library in both Spanish and Russian, but the Russian language, it's it's complex yet simple. A lot of the language that you learn, you can put it in any order as long as you have the endings correct, and the endings of different words are basically what give the sentence context.
So you get the right last word of the whole concept of whatever you get.
Yeah,
All right. It's like a punctuation.
basically,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's cool. I mean, don't be modest. I mean, could you go to Russia and find the bathroom? Get a date? I mean, get something to eat? I mean, how good are you?
I'm intermediate. I haven't been practicing a whole lot coming out of college, but I can ask for basic directions. I can briefly understand what people are talking to me about, but other than that, I would say my writing skills aren't that great when it comes to Russian. The Russian alphabet will throw you for a loop. There's a lot of characters that are like very silent, but give context to the rest of the sentence or to the word, and that's kind of the big thing you got to pick up on it. It's I was- like having sh in words that make like like different sounds. Only this one just means silent, and this is what gives it the rest of the context for the sentence. It's interesting. Once you dive into it, there's a lot of weird little nuances for words. But I think one of the biggest things that differentiate it from like English, Russian, you can make like I won't say you can make up words, but you can create like caricatures of words to like better explain something like cowboy boots, like cowboyski. What's the word for boots? This isn't a big good demonstration of my skills, but like yeah, cowboyski is a word to describe a type of boot in the Russian language, and that's just something they created so that way they could describe it. And I feel like in
Okay.
English we can do that as well.
Yeah, I wanted to. This is one question that it's a good opportunity to ask you. Language produces a thought process, how you
Yes,
think about something. If you don't speak Russian, you're at a disadvantage to think like a Russian.
absolutely.
So I'm wondering how influential a language, especially when it's different, because Latin-based languages are like, Italian, French, Spanish. They're all kind of, they have a common root kind of deal. English is like, I don't know, hodgepodge of everything. I mean, but German is, almost like some of the Southeast Asian languages. You have a Vietnamese talking, you think they're yelling at each other, kind of like Chinese or something, But
Yeah.
but Russian, it was a different language that produces different. It's like dolphins speak. If dolphins are, they're relaying probably pictures or images or they're memeing, or something like
Yeah,
that.
they're complex thoughts through whistles and clicks.
Yeah, so I'm like the Russian having that language. Did it change the way your perception is? Is your perception different when speaking, reading, understanding Russian? Is it they're different people? It's like going to Alien from Alpha Centauri, whatever the hell, expecting them to think the way we do. Is it a different thinking process?
I would say so, yes, because I think the Russian language is a very disciplined language. You can't just like get the gist off of Russian. You have to be very precise in your language. And you can see that in the Russian people, whether that like, Russian wrestlers, they're very persistent, they're very precise in their movements. This is like just something to like relate it to something that people might have seen is like they're very dedicated, very hardworking people. And their language kind of resembles that as they have to be very precise in their language to be able to get their points across.
Has that benefited you? I mean, do you see that as an add to your personality, your character? You're going, yeah, you're a little bit more precise with your English. I mean, what do you think?
I would say so. I think one of the biggest things is having very precise language and what you're talking about. Because here, I feel like I don't like texting a whole lot. I'd rather call people because I think a lot of things can
Right.
get diluted in texting. You don't really understand what that person's feeling, or you could be, or like how that person is like trying to relay information to you through text when they could just call you and show you or something like that. So I think for my life, definitely like specificity in your language is very crucial and key to having anything get done. I experience that at work all the time where like someone asks me to do something and I'll go ahead and do it and then they go like, "Oh well, you did do it, but that's not what we were really looking for." I think that just come like I feel like that happens in almost every language, but I feel like in Russian at least it's very like they're very poignant when they talk. You won't
You know,
you
this is. Let's go back to your education and your selection. I remember when you first started. You know, you were doing cybersecurity, super hacker, geek, white hat. I'm going to save the planet, and I learned Russian. And you know, so we were thinking you're going to go into government, NSA, whatever, CI something, you know. And you did an internship with Amazon between your junior senior year, I think it was,
Yep.
and then that opened up opportunities. And I know, you know, they're your employer now, so we can't go bad mouthing too much. But you know, you're in the corporate world, and the first thing you guys get is you get a paycheck, and you go, "How much am I paying the government? What the crap is going on here?" That's the first thing. Then you know, the next thing is just all the crap when you had the ESG and the DEI and all the stuff, and you were a good looking, hell, you look like Chad, and you're a poster boy for Chad. Okay, so I'm just going, this is, were you at a disadvantage? Do you feel that there was a, it was weighted towards, the, I don't know, mustache wearing, formerly a guy, lesbian, bi, black, whatever the hell? I mean, what was your experience coming out of COVID, out of all this woke stuff, going through college? All of a sudden now you're going in the workforce, and in the same class as your girlfriend, which I like a lot, by the way. She's cool. Emily, right? Emily.
That is correct.
Yeah, I remember. So, Emily, beautiful, intelligent, capable, got it going on, but she was female. Not white female, but she was female, okay? So did you see a difference in how you guys were treated? And is that changing now? Things are kind of shifting a little bit socially. Give us your opinion on all that, because your generation next, you're in that battle. We comment on it, we talk about it. I talk to young guys, but you lived it. So
So
infotainment us.
when it comes like to the differences, I'll say like DE&I at Amazon has been big for that company. But in recent times, they've had to curtail that a lot with President Trump's demands for like the abolishment of DEI stuff. But going through college, there were some things that you see like uh, scholarships or whatnot that are produced or given to people who are like meet the demographic of what they really wanted, like if they wanted African American or a female, and those were only dedicated for those people. But as getting into the workforce right now, I think President Trump has done a good job of curtailing that kind of behavior for companies. um as a man, I really haven't seen a whole lot of it. I think a lot more people are going towards, okay, are you competent, and not just a number. I think I got lucky going into it 'cause, while things are changing, but for right now, because I have heard in the past like stuff going on with I know, who was it, American Airlines or something, wanted to like have a certain percentage of their pilots be African American, and they turned the point away from "Are you a competent pilot?" to "Can you meet these demographic requirements? That way we can get like a break from the government or a tax credit or whatever it might
No.
be." Yeah. So luckily, in modern time of 2025, I think that's being very curtailed. And luckily, I haven't had to experience a whole lot of it, which is good. And especially at Embry Riddle too, they seem to do things really fair. So I haven't had a whole lot of complaints.
Well, was that a thing? I mean, did people, um, we are a meritocracy here. I mean, did that ever really come up?
No, no, not really. Like I said, like luckily I was picking institutions that really didn't follow a whole lot of stuff. Like picking individuals based off of like, the color of their skin or the sex they were. It was a lot more based on their merit. So that's really all I really have to say about it. I didn't really experience too much of it. I saw a lot of it at other campuses going through. I felt really bad for like I'd see viral videos going on at like ASU's campus where you would see white men hanging out in like I think what they called it was like the culture section or something at ASU, and it's like they were getting harassed by other people about like, hey, you're a white dude, and this is for like, this space is for African Americans or minorities or something like that. And I remember seeing that video and seeing a lot of people like, no, like this is a public space and we can use anything that you want because it's public. It's not, you don't own this public infrastructure because of the color of your skin. So
This
luckily,
was
look.
did it surprise you? You know that was going on. Did you give it any real credence? You know, did you think it was going to be as prominent as it was, or you thought this too shall pass? It just took longer than you thought. I mean, what were your thought process on it?
I was more on the this too shall pass side of things. Like I think a lot of people can get caught up in like the idea of like, well, like we've been unfairly treated this many times. Instead of working to make a more fair thing, they wanted to try to create an atmosphere where they were getting like some sort of payback for whatever had happened in the past. When really that's not what America's about. Is about creating a nice level playing field that everyone can operate on and everyone being treated fairly and at the same level. Is it has that happened in practice? For the most part, you want to say yes, but during that time, there were some aspects that were like no, like people trying to claim that certain aspects of like this part of campus or that part of campus are for these people, and and if you're not of that ideology, then you would be scrutinized.
Well, did you have any minority friends? I mean, was there a large minority or significant, or is it, like token black guy at Embry Riddle? I mean, what
No,
was it
no, no,
like?
no. There were definitely like people, like African American people there, as well as what am I thinking? I can't think of the word right now. But we had
Asian?
multi Yeah, we had Asian cultures there as well. Very big Asian culture presence there. But everyone there treated everyone very fairly. I had black friends, I had Asian friends, and there was never the discussion of like, oh, like differences of race. It was always just like, no, this dude's just chill to hang out with. So we're just gonna like we have our differences, we have our opinions, and we have like different ideologies or whatever it might be. But we come together and we try to sort out our differences on the merit of who we are as people, not so much of like the credence or like creed that either our skin or our race gives us.
Well, the reason I bring this up obviously is because it had such an impact on the country, and I'm sure, just like you, we thought, you know, this shall pass, but it was
Yeah.
so supported by something, somebody, something. Where do you think this came from? Because it was targeted at your generation. It was immersion by every freaking device, every vector on the internet, television, movies, comic books, freaking going to, get a cup of coffee. I mean, it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
definitely intentional and it was definitely targeted towards you. How did you bypass just by the choices you made of where you got your education, who your friends were, how you're brought up, and what gave you a special insight to this that your peers weren't able to get away from? How did they get sucked in? Was it I didn't understand someone just like you know, good looking, smart guy, got everything going for him, but they went down the dark side. Why?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it has to be with how I was brought up. Like I said, very independent. A lot of people going through like life in the city or whatnot, they are expecting a certain proportion of it to be like handed to them. And when stuff wasn't like that, or they see like previous generations have different things handed to them of some sort, they are like, well, we want that too. And I feel like the mind virus that you'll say, like the liberal mind virus, if you want to even like coin it like that. But it gave people the aspect of like, because you feel this way, here's a way to fight so that way you can have, free this, free that, and like, they gave them this weird like platform for them to stand on that was not built based off of merit or hard work. It was just based off of purely like you want something and
Identity
you should have it.
politics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And just me as a person, that's not how you don't have things handed to you very often, if at all. So a lot of it has to come from you. And if you're not doing things to better yourself and you're just expecting and waiting for handouts and you're just waiting, like, then that's just who you're gonna be. And if you find like an institution or an ideology that like pushes like, no, you should have free stuff, and they just went with something that I think just matched what they wanted instead of what they needed, kind of thing.
This is. I'm looking. A lot of times, I'll talk to people. I do the why thing. What grandmother, what uncle, what teacher, what coach, what you know, first employer, what somebody that made it to where you understood this, you cared, you have compassion and empathy, for your fellow man. I mean, you're not wanting to be a Klingon or Viking, just go take their crap and I win, and you
Absolutely.
get golf claps by the people back home that you pillaged and raped as much more than the next guy. I mean, it's just there's a philosophical thing, and they call it Judeo-Christian culture, or a Christian thing, or how the country is founded, the founders, what was emphasized, the Bill of Rights, purpose of government, defense of individual right. There's some fundamental basic thing that made us this way, as opposed to other cultures or families or whatever. I mean, so with you, you're one of the few opportunities that I had to see a young man and your brother and your other brothers, grow up, in this influence that Bob, had for you, an expectation of, and he's a pretty lax guy. He's not a yeller, well, he yells at me, but, he's not, a big emotional kind of, and he can get frustrated, but, tell me about the parenting skills that you got from him that you're going to carry forward with your kids. And I'll tell you this. This is the one thing, before he got married and he had girlfriend, back when we were in our early 30s and so on. And it was amazing how everybody he'd separate from or whatever, he'd peaceful, friendly, no bridges burned, whatever. And I go, what the hell, man? Two things that he said. It's never a mistake to be courteous, and you don't sweat the cheap shit.
Exactly.
And I was like, man, that's just good advice right there. So, in addition to that, because I'm sure that permeated your life, what are you going to carry forward? What is it that you thought was important to help insulate you? You're insulated from all the lockdown. You're insulated from, you're going to have your mandatory youth indoctrination of your children, or you're going to have to, get your central bank digital currency of you're allowed, not allowed to purchase, dude. You're going to, and, you're going to be controlled, because if you're not in control, you're out of control.
Out of control,
we can't have,
yeah.
we can't have that, So what is it that you got that you're going to carry forward? Because I imagine you're planning on having children one day. So what are you going to bring with you?
So I think the big thing that my dad let me and my brother do, especially was like we'd hear things in the news. Like I remember having a conversation with my father. I was like, hey dad, like what's universal basic income and why is that bad? And he was all like, listen, you're creating a standpoint for people to be lazy, and if you give them this like financial safety net, there's nothing stopping from people becoming lazier and lazier, and then you have societal collapse. And that made sense to me in my brain. And my dad gave me the opportunity to talk openly about it, and not question like his ideals, but just more or less like have him explain to me what was bad about this way of thinking. Another big thing that you touched on was like, showing people like empathy when like, someone you might disagree with. I think that's a really big thing here in the country now. I think we need to be showing a lot of people like empathy, even if they have bad ideas or say bad things. It's like, you got to turn the other cheek, and you got to like, I feel like violence begets violence. And if you just continue meeting people at that violent extreme, you're just going to do nothing but continue digging ourselves in a hole. And being able to show people compassion and just knowingly like, at the end of the day, it's going to be okay. I think that's one of the bigger things that I'm trying to try and instill in my children. It's like it's going to be, you got to take the good times with the bad, and being able to push, just continue moving forward is going to be the biggest thing I try to instill in my children. Like even if it's not happening now, it will happen. It will righteous and the right always come out on top at the end of the day, I feel like. So being able to push being able to push for the right things at the right time is going to be the big thing I instill in my children, and being compassionate to the people that you may disagree with as well.
That compassion, that was one thing that we were planning on going to the Charlie Kirk Memorial because we could. And we checked, and it was already, they were like reaching limits on tickets of, it wasn't even, you had to pay or anything, but it was reservations, and it was just a thing.
Yep.
We filled out the press credential stuff, not because we thought we were, Christian libertarians don't go to the top of the line. So I'm just like, just wanted an introduction. We kind of probably shared more about who we were and our family and everything more than we needed to, but it was really an introduction to organization because we've been very supportive of what Charlie Kirk was doing on the
Absolutely.
site. We put a lot of his stuff up there, and we're very supportive of taking the battle to the beast. I mean, to the center of the to their party, house, which was the universities, and direct dialogue. They didn't like it because that's what he was doing. They did everything they could, they, them, those, whoever is supporting this thing. They fund this and the violence of that, and fire this and destroying that, and then bail them out of, jail. And I mean, it was just stupid. You look at it and go, this is just stupid. Eventually, that's all going to come out, and they're going to go after, I hope. I mean, God.
Yeah, I hope as well.
There got to be some accountability for that. But they were hoping to instigate violence from, you say right, conservative, just normal people. I mean, holy crap, just don't be left alone. So, and an expectation that the government is there to defend their rights. This guy's burning my crap. Can I defend my property? No. Or are you going to help me? No.
No.
Well, what are we going to do? We're just going to let him. Oh, okay. Well, can I not vote for that? Can I vote? Oh, no, the voting's all screwed up too? I go, damn, man, you're begging for trouble. But it was an expectation, I think, that all this that was funded and supported that you were immersed in or trying to threaten your life with was not opposed by using the same methods. The conservative, the religious, the right, the Christian, just whatever they felt was the other side. They thought they'd we'll get a militia and get up. We're going to just start taking you out and shooting you. That's what those wanted. They needed that.
And I'm very happy that we didn't. That's not what ended up happening. Because I think it would have been very easy for people on the right, to make that decision and go out and harm other people that just had other ideals than them. And I'm very glad that we met this horrific tragedy with love and compassion. Mind you, there has been justice on both ends. Like, I've been seeing the people that have posted, "Oh, I'm glad Charlie Clerk died." Like, that's a terrible thing to post, and those
Probably
people
end up.
Yeah, and those people end up getting fired. Like, if they're actual people, like their institutions going weird, we don't condone this rhetoric because companies want to have good people in them. They don't want to have people that are out here diversely calling oh yes, the killing of, even if he didn't like Charlie Kirk, he was still an individual. The murder of somebody good. That's not a good thing. I'm not very pro murder.
The thing that was interesting, because we couldn't go by 6 a.m., they were closing traffic on the highway on the 101 there by Cardinal Stadium.
Yep.
So we had a friend, Dean, was going, and he's Texas. He goes, don't even try. It's already, we almost made it. We're a third car back before they shut it off. I mean, just on the highway. I mean, it was backing up. It was a thing. My son and my oldest grandson, he's 15, they were going, and they just turned around because it just, it was blocked. It was a thing. You had to get going. My friend started at 4 a.m. I mean, it was a thing. So I'm going, okay. So we made the plan to go over to your house. Donna and I went over to your father's home, and Donna made us all breakfast and everything. We're like, Woohoo, man, we're getting, bacon, eggs, and grits. So we go ahead and have, she made us breakfast. And so we saw the early stuff. It was more like a worship service, than anything else. And then you had, like midday, it started with the speakers. And we wound up sitting there on the couch watching the entire thing.
Yep.
The only thing that we go, who's going to speak last? Erica Kirk or Donald Trump? I mean, which one? Come on, who's going to get the last word, So they brought in, of course, it was Erica and then Donald Trump. And then, of course, he brought her up, and that kind of balanced it out.
Mm-hmm.
But when she forgave...
Yeah, forgave the shooter.
Yeah, I'm going to tear up, man. Whew. When she forgave her husband's killer, assuming he was a killer, I mean, God knows what. Nothing surprises me anymore. But when she did that, that was so powerful. She goes, Christ would have done it. My husband would have done it. I'm doing it. I forget. I'm going, whoa. There were so many of the bad guys. Damn it. The freaking Christians got everything, an answer for everything. It's like, those damn libertarians, they're so principled and they just keep getting away with, it's like whatever they would do to Ron Paul, we would, we'd roll with it and, take advantage of it. So the same thing, this freedom philosophy that's out there that you were brought up and immersed in, because when you were very young, your father, ran for office, he and I hanging out the campfire, talking to you guys, all this time and so on. As time goes on, you're going, damn, them old guys weren't as dumb as we thought, So it's this peace reaction to this, and you having experienced this on campus, and they had young Americans for whatever the hell was going on, the youth for something that was, tied in with the Republican, conservative, Christian, Charlie Kirk thing.
Yep.
How impactful was that to have that on campus? Was it, annoyance? Was it, quit shoving tracks in my face? I mean, what?
I don't think it was annoyance at all. They were never in your face or like try to convince you like their way was the right way, which can't be said for the opposing side of the coin, which is if you don't believe me, you're gonna get a bike locked to the head. Kind of not very diplomatic of them. But they would run a lot of amazing events on campus. They would set up flags in the courtyard for 9/11 every year. They would paint. We had the what is it called? This like the Spirit Rock, like the school Spirit Rock. They do immaculate paint jobs on that for the veterans, and the Veteran Corps are there on campus as well. And they were very chill individuals. They would talk openly about their beliefs and have very like diplomatic discussions of like why this wouldn't work, or like they're like why gun control wouldn't work, or this, that, and the other thing. And they would keep it very very mellow. And like they'd be passionate about what they were talking about, but it would never be like we hate you for the way that you think. That's and I think a lot of people like in my experience as well, like talking to people that have different ideologies, is they just haven't experienced what they need to experience to really understand where I'm coming from. And vice versa on the same coin. Maybe I haven't lived whatever they have experienced, so why they believe that way, but I know deep down that like, show them love, show them compassion, pray for them if that's something you do, that they find like the right answer, that they get to understanding the same thing that you understand.
Was there a counter on campus?
I wouldn't say like a counter. There were individuals that fit the like liberal ideology on campus, pro-abortion or anti-gun control, or not anti-gun gun control, like individuals on campus, but they never really like unionized or like even gender politics people as well there. But they were more individuals and not a like group of them. And I feel like that's kind of what you see a lot, at least on our smaller campus. A lot of people as well that gather, they're not really part of a group necessarily. Like maybe there's like the Antifa group, the malicious group behind everything, but a lot of them are just individuals that just have bad information, I feel like.
A lot of times you need to have a faculty sponsor, to have, a club on campus kind of thing. And your faculty may have been a little bit different to where they're like, yeah, you're not going to find a sponsor at Embry-Riddle, So it's, it seems like it's almost a requirement at the other universities. There was money involved. There was,
Yep.
first you track down the money, and I think
Yep.
that's going to produce a lot of results. So as you've gone to a company like Amazon, and
hmm
that was kind of not really on your radar screen until you had an internship, and they go, "Ooh, we want some Robert and Emily. That's what we want." So they make you an offer. They pay you to move to Florida, and you're in Orlando, right, or near Orlando.
Yeah, I'm in near the Orlando, Tampa area. I'm like literally smack in between Tampa and Orlando.
Have you ever heard of a small town not too far away, Dade City? That on
I
your
have heard
radar?
that. I have heard that name a couple of
That's
times.
where I was
So
born. That's where I grew up till I was 12. So
gotta go check it out.
So I'm familiar with the giant bugs. So I get it. The That's one thing about Arizona, man. I mean, there's bugs, but man, there's not bugs. I mean, holy crap! I mean,
Yeah,
every now and
and
then there's a wave, but this, especially after it rains now, I know for another week or so I'm going to be bugged up. But the future that you have planned philosophically, what is your plan? I mean, is it you're climbing the corporate ladder because you're very capable, educated, know what's up kind of guy, level-headed, not, everybody wants you on their softball team. They want you to go to their party. They
Yeah.
want to make sure Emily and Robert are invited. I mean, it's not a cool day at the lake unless they're there. I mean, I get it. You're one of those guys. You're Chad, but the purple hairs don't like you. But I mean, but the thing is that you got a enormously successful life in front of you. But define that life. Is it how much money you make? How many cars you got? How expensive your house is? I mean, what is it that you're looking to attain?
For me personally, I don't really have a whole lot of ambition of climbing the corporate ladder. I think that's a cool thing to have, like being I wouldn't say sought after almost, like, but being different, being having the resources and capability to be very
Be
sought
liked.
after. Yeah, be sought after in the job market is a very big thing for me. But at the end of the day, I think for my life is like to live very similarly to how I lived out in Tonopah, very independent and finding having my couple, 10 to 50 acres of land or whatever it might be, and being self-reliant and having a job that allows me to do that would be very big for that. So whatever that form might come in, whether that be I'm a consultant or if I change careers entirely and I end up becoming like an aircraft mechanic or whatever it might be, I think following uh, different aspects of life. I'm not sure if you read the book. Matthew McConaughey did a really good book called Green Light, and I'm just trying to find those like green lights in life where like things are easy and just make sense, and you go along with them, and good things tend to happen from those encounters. And that's kind of how I'm living my life right now. I don't really have a set path. I have an idea of where I want to be and how I want my life to live. But as of right now, it's just kind of going with the flow and putting myself in positions to meet those goals that I want. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, as long as I got a nice house, like a couple children, maybe a dog, a cat, whatever it might be, on a couple acres of land where I like nothing, nobody's messing with me. We can just live very peaceful lives. Like I think that's the best thing I could hope for coming in the future.
You mentioned Matthew McConaughey. He Texas, I think now he's in Texas, and
Yeah.
he wrote a book and Green Light that I didn't know about, but he keeps talking about he might get involved in politics. The influence he had on you with a book like that,
hmm
for you to mention it, there's an endorsement right there. But um, for him to write a book, having an impact on your life, or run for political office, can you do both, or just like, man, this politics thing, don't sully your soul, man. Go write another book. I mean, what's your thought on that kind of thing?
I think politics is not for the weak of heart. I mean, you see that in Donald Trump. I mean, he had aspirations of becoming the president, but I mean, it takes a toll on your soul in dealing with the swamp and the people that are and the bureaucrats inside of the government. For Matthew McConaughey, I would say like if being in government is truly what you want, you gotta make sure that you are very solid on your foundations of philosophy and basically have those protrude through every aspect of of your policy and your litigation for things inside of your state. For me personally, I would tell him like I don't think he should be going into the government. I think he's a really good philosophically good guy. I would definitely have a whiskey and hang out with him. He'd be a really cool guy to hang out with, but politics is not for the faint of heart, I would say. So being very secure in your philosophy and your understanding of things in government, I think is a big thing. And I just don't know if he has that yet.
Yeah, that's one thing you'd like to sit him down, ask some questions, which is why I have the pleasure and honor of talking to a lot of influential, important people, and I get to ask a lot of times. It kind of is annoying to some of them because I go, why? Why do you care? Why? Well, I do this and do this and better. I go, why?
Yeah.
Why? You thought that was important. Why did you think that was important?
Hmm.
Well, obviously it's because I go, yeah, but why do you care?
And I think that's the biggest question that you can ask any politician is the why behind it, because the why usually sometimes is money and power,
Yeah,
and that's not a good
exactly.
why.
Well, this is one thing that I found out by doing this. It was just experiencing, your father and I doing all the stuff. You know more than most, all the crap we did. But
Yeah.
the when you would be in the green room, you're waiting to go on. A bunch of politicians, candidates are there to do their 15 minutes on whatever the hell, or
Hmm.
you're there ready to do a debate, or you go in, or a lot of these guys I went to church with. I mean,
Yeah.
and they would say all this stuff, and you go, oh, okay, well, why would that and that? It was something I learned in high school when I was a wrestler. If you have a move, there's a counter to that move, or they do
Yep.
a move, you counter that move. Then you'd have a counter to that, and there's a counter to that counter. But they never were able to go more than 3 deep.
Yeah.
Counter, they'd make a counter, counter, counter. Once you hit the third one, they're lost. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, he's better than me. He knows more than 3. I mean, if
Yeah.
they even did that, they always usually get 1 counter. But in politics, it would be their 3x5 card. They'd have, well, when they say this, you counter with this. It's a right to choose, right to choose. It's her body. It's kind of, well,
Yep.
what about this and the proper rule? Well, it's just, well, what about, they go, I don't know. I mean, they didn't have any origination story for their thought. There was no
Yeah.
personal experience that they had. There was no principle that they adhered to that made
Exactly.
them, think that didn't exist. It was some special interest gave them some money. That's what it was.
Exactly.
So they go, well, but there was one woman that was a state legislator that was running for something, Congress, whatever. And we were at the PBS station. They had debates, and they had different. We happened to be talking. They know who we are and so on. So what happened was she made it very clear to me. She goes, I have 5 interest on my card. If it doesn't violate the interest of this group, this union, this special interest, this utility, then I can do what I want. Until then, those are the 5 put me here, and that's what I do. Thank
Yeah.
you for your honesty. Just
They're
put your
bought.
NASCAR jacket on and we're good, So it was, and if it was that obvious and that open, okay, that's why. I mean, at least you're telling me
Yeah.
why. But it's always, they have to fake sincerity.
'Cause-
And it's hard to do,
Mhm.
What were you going to say?
I was gonna say, yeah, faking sincerity. I mean, a lot of these politicians and whatnot, they are coached. They have, what are they called?
Advisors.
Yeah, like advisors, or like this is how you act on camera. This is what you say. You can't just be honest. And that's why I think a lot of people are waking up to that, because for far too long we've just been like, oh yes, very very nice dressed man speaking about politics. When really it's like, that dude is bought out, paid for by some corporation or some company or some special interest group that you have no idea. And a lot of people don't do the due diligence of going into that and finding, okay, why are you saying those kind of things? Luckily, you were able to find someone who's very upfront and honest about that. That's really cool. But a lot of people don't have that luxury.
Oh, she's not saying it on the campaign trail, but I mean, at least she, shared it with me. But so this is a life that was not just crafted by your parents, but was, they're friends, Donna and I mean, we had, little influence, and it was just, you came out just awesome human being, and I'm looking forward to you being a father. How far away are we from that? What are we looking at?
Probably, I would say short term, probably 3, 4 years. Still want to get we're currently in an apartment right now. I would like to at least have some sort of property or a house or more permanent living than just an apartment right now. And also, since we're still very young in our careers, like finding something a little bit more permanent after we develop and get more certifications or whatever it might be, and develop more as professionals. And then, I mean, by all means, having kids is definitely within like the realm of possibility in the next 3 to 4 years.
That was something that your father really was an inspiration to a lot of his friends and all of it, and certainly you guys. He got every freaking certification of training of give me a framed whatever to put. I can do whatever.
Yep.
He was a refueling supervisor at Palo Verde Nuclear Power Plant. Well, he came out of the Navy, worked on the Enterprise, on nuke, the propulsion system and all that kind of stuff. So he had a lot of skills, and he remembered his algebra. I mean, that kind of
Yep.
thing. But it was he took advantage of every opportunity to get one more line on his LinkedIn resume kind of thing,
Yep.
So one of the things that I don't know, we're going to talk about it because get over it. When you went to Florida, I found out that Amazon, for some reason, were one of the opportunities that you could get your AP, you get your aircraft mechanic
power
thing they
plant,
need
yep.
because they got a bunch of planes and they need somebody, and you're going, woo, I get to go to my little brother and say, aha, I got a degree and I get an AP and I can speak Russian. Aye, in your face. I mean, so so is that a possibility? That's something that you might want to check off on what you can do?
Absolutely. Amazon does have a really good, they call it career choice services for anyone who is making hourly pay. I'm a manager and I'm not salary, I'm hourly there at Amazon, but I get full those benefits. I can either go back and get more certifications or an associate's degree. Mind you, probably not going to do that. I am heavily looking into doing the AMP stuff as well because I'm seeing what he's doing, and the ability for him to travel and work on airplanes is awesome. And also being able to like look into that aspect with the knowledge I have from my degree, I think would be very valuable to any sort of aviation industry because that's my background right now. I'm currently aviation security and safety. And I feel like every aspect of that, like supply chain of like getting, whether that be parts or working on aircraft or whatever it might be, I think I could bring some very valuable insight into that realm.
Well, your little brother is also a pilot. So when he's out doing and fixing it, he can go test ride it, do it at 21, and they're like, what the hell, man? He goes, we need you in Southern California to work on emergency plane on ground. He goes, well, I can take my plane and just fly over there and kick it. What?
It done.
Get her done. So it's awesome. And this used to be, when I was a kid, you saw a lot of these very talented individuals that leadership that people look towards, and they were examples for my generation. I don't see this anymore in Generation Next. Our kids did very well, but I'm like, wow, what is it that's missing? Is it parents? Is it somebody staying at home? Is Emily like, well, I'm going to be working forever? Or is she like, you need to get certified up and go make some real money so I can be a homemaker? I mean, what's her mindset on this?
Her mindset, Emily's a very independent person. She's very smart, very educated, very talented in many aspects of her life. And I'm very blessed to have her in my life. Our aspect of it, we had this conversation very early on, is we're very, like, we want to have kids. Most importantly, we want to, like, before we lock ourselves into something, and this is something my dad talked about too, is like, having kids later in life. We're probably not going to do it super later, but from like the way we've seen it from like other friends, we have had friends that have had kids right out of college, out of high school, and I wouldn't say like pigeonholes you kind of, but it creates less opportunity for you to develop as like a professional or even as a person sometimes because you're stuck being a parent. And that's why we're very proponent of like getting out there, experiencing the world and what it has to offer before we get together and then create life in this world.
Don't wait too long, man. Don't wait too long. I like the fact of being, you're younger than you're almost just a little bit older than my grandkids. My kids, let's put it this way. Our children were conduits to grandkids.
Yep.
Just saying. So we go to the kids, we're saying, look, we're raising you to be good parents so we don't have to be parents to our grandkids.
Yep.
So this is because we really look forward to grandchildren. And we're young enough to enjoy that. Well, your dad is too. I mean, you guys start having babies, he'll be all over. I don't know how grandkiddy he is, but that was a big thing for us. So don't wait too long, because the energy. I mean, you need that 20-year-old energy to freaking raise kids. Just saying. But but is that in your generation instilled? I know the Charlie Kirk, the Turning Point, thing was really big on that. Is that a priority? Is it on your to-do list? Is it near the top? Is it kind of gearing towards that, doing a family thing? How
Absolutely.
much of that?
I mean, my dad instilled in me, like, the most important thing at the end of the day that you can do on this earth is repopulate, and making sure that those people are good individuals, not having people pushing the theoretical rock of society backwards. That's how he kind of described it to me. And luckily, I think he's done a good job of instilling those values in both me and my younger brother. And I like to think we're pushing the boulder of society forward. But definitely family is something I'm pushing for in my life. I think a lot of people get caught up in, like, I don't think you're ever really ready for kids. Even my dad having us at the age he had us at, he was as ready as he could be, and luckily he had a good strategy of raising us. And that's kind of the steps I'm kind of taking as well when I'm contemplating having kids, because I'd rather have kids be planned than unplanned and trying to make it up as I go along. And that's just kind of the way I think of it. Is that good or bad? I don't really know. I've only seen it one way.
It's a good goal.
It's a good goal, yeah. Like, if we were to have a kid right now, it wouldn't be the end of the world, and we've had that discussion. It's like, if by happenstance, if we got pregnant and we were having a kid, it wouldn't be the end of the world, and we would do our very best to raise that individual to be the best and brightest that we could.
We didn't plan on having kids, but we were planning on having kids. It's like, all right, I'm ovulating, it's time, let's do it. It wasn't like that. But, we wanted to have our goal before we got married. The idea was 4 under 4, because I had 2 sisters and she had 2 brothers. Yep. So we had friends that had 2 and 2, and we thought that was ideal. That'd be cool. Everybody had
everyone had a friend.
Sibling. So we were going until we had 4, 2 and 2, and then when our 4th one was a girl, we're like, woohoo, we win, man, done, snip it. We're just ready to, we're rocking and rolling and whatnot.
Yep.
Donna had really good pregnancies. She, even for friends that were, needing surrogates, she, was willing to offer that because she enjoyed pregnancy and it wasn't a big deal for her.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just, we were active and poor and whatever, and it just, we repopulated enough, we're good.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to have a bunch of kids. If I had the resources, man, I've been all over that. So this is, what about homeschooling? Now, you guys went through, I remember when COVID happened and your father had, been prepped, your mother and him, they, preserved a lot of stuff to have, he's not like a super prepper, but he's not an idiot. The biggest thing is that he prepped meals that were ready in mason jars because he'd do this 12, 16-hour day during the outage at Palo Verde, and we knew the outage was coming because he'd shave his head bald, putting on the radiation suit and everything. He didn't want to be dealing with that. So there went the hair, and then he's gone for 6-7 weeks of whatever, and he just had glass jars and a stew that was done. So he already was kind of prepping things just because of that. Meal ready to eat, just sitting on the shelves and kind of, we're done.
Yeah.
When COVID and the lockdown happened, he just went out to his 10 acres, closed the gate, locked and said, we're good. Family comes in, you don't have to go to school, fine. We're whatever. Put the cutout of you in front of the computer to, so you get credit or whatever. I mean, go ride your motorcycles. So I remember, you and Danny, you were going, that was the best times of our life, man. That
Yeah,
was
it was
awesome.
great. We were doing
You know,
we were doing so many things. Not even just riding the dirt bikes. I think we caught a couple wild rabbits, and it was like we were really contemplating what if we just started breeding rabbits and cooking them into stew for prolonged protein, man. Like,
because
we were
you
really
could.
thinking because we could, and then like we've seen, going to like Jackalope Freedom Festival and seeing the families up there, the wonderful families up there that do that also live that same way and have like quail and rabbits and chickens. We had chickens for a time. They're just really hard to take care of in Arizona, but because of the heat. But seeing that aspect of like being able to like produce your own food, that's a big thing. That's a wonderful thing to have. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, definitely like have it like during COVID, it was a great time for me and Danny to really expand, like experiment, I would say, like experiment with the skills that we had and kind of like, live our life a little bit more independently than, going for what is it, like 7 to 8 hours to school, getting the education of whatever it is at school, quote unquote education. And then, we got to actually, practice what we preach there at the property.
Now you can cut me off as much as you want. The audience is going, do it more, do it more. So this has been a great conversation. I got to get the tractor in for some maintenance, but
All good.
this has been a really good introduction into the hope that all of us have for Generation Next. That we can, rely on you to perpetuate the species. I mean, it was the reason why we're here. And
Yeah.
the one thing I feel that those had to instill in us is more of it's get yours, your own pleasure, your own.
Your own this, your own, yeah.
Which is fine. But what if I want to be part of a community? What if I want to be a respected member of my family? What if I want, capable children and grandchildren? What if I want that? No, man, all the women got to get in the job force. We need more tax money. We need
Yep.
you to obey and comply, or you die, because we got to hear gun mandate of whatever. I mean, it's just been, I'm just wondering from your perspective, especially now that living out in the world here recently. I mean, it's just been not that long.
Yeah.
That you're seeing that there was a threat. There was an intent. There was an attack on your generation. Do you see it was, it was certainly there. Was it intentional? Is it orchestrated? I mean, how are you perceiving it?
I perceive it, it's like, I try not to think like there are evil powers that be that would purposely try to handicap my generation of individuals. But once you start looking into it, and like you said, it's like, oh, getting women into more jobs for more tax money and this, that, or the destruction of the nuclear family through multiple different, like to the black community or through the white community, like just not giving people the tools to be themselves, to like rely on themselves. I think it's definitely orchestrated on some aspect, if not like it's just evil from some things I've seen, like corporations buying out a bunch of houses and making people permanent renters so that way they could never own a home. Like that's a very hard thing to be like, is that just coincidence or is there something else going on in the background that we really can't fully comprehend? I try to have faith that there is in the people out there that can make those like big decisions, that they're not evil, and that whatever it is, maybe there's just like, a lapse of judgment. But you gotta, even if so, you gotta protect yourself at that point in time. Like I said, being self-reliant. Like there are evil forces out there that be, and you gotta be able to roll with the punches and be able to protect what you love. I think Charlie Kirk was a big proponent of God, family, and country. God first, family second, country third. And like same thing here. It's like my family will definitely come before my country. Those are the people that I love and care about. I can live without a country. It would be really hard to live without people I could trust, and that's my family.
This is one thing, I'm going to out your dad here. One, he was encouraging that Donna and I, if we weren't going to go out, we'd go watch the Charlie Kirk thing at your home. And, there were tears. And Bob was crying a little bit. I saw a couple of tears, man, a little bit. How is religion or faith in God, or I mean, that's one thing you learn in politics. You can never be anarchist enough. You can never be Christian enough. You could never. Yeah, but are you turbo Christian? Were you born again at the right? I mean, it just really gets seriously. So I'm not like a degree of Christian kind of thing. But is that an important part of your makeup? What you would relay to your children?
I think the Bible does a lot of good lessons and teaching, like, hey, don't be a dick to other people. Like, the golden rule, treat people the way you want to be treated. There's a lot of great lessons to be had in the Bible. Emily has a background in Christianity. My dad has one, but we never were like, taught to like read the Bible or anything. But as I've gotten to college, I found myself going to Bible studies more with my friends, because a lot of my friends are like, Christian background, read the Bible every day, have a very big faith in Jesus Christ. And I've I've always I think you handicap yourself by not reading it or reading any like religious material at all, because I think it's good to have that philosophy. There's a lot of like Buddhist teachings I like. There's a lot of Christian teachings I like, and I think even like some I would say like not mainstream ideas that I hold as well, like string theory or like thoughts of the universe, your thoughts have power kind of thing. But I think I hold a lot of like these values off of my research and off of what I can conclude that like yes, this is a possibility. And surrounding yourself with people that have those same ideals and good teachings is probably like the best thing you can have in life. Sorry, I feel like I'm rambling, but yeah.
No, I mean, it's just, you're being honest. It was at your age when I first moved out that I read the Bible straight through. And I thought, I'd do the King James because it was traditional and thought I would miss something, whatever. But that was a plow,
Yeah.
Then I did the Good News version, which kind of read straight. And I compared them, for a lot of it just to make sure they're, kind of saying the same thing. But then you kind of... Lord knows, you find out how it was done and who did and where and what years, whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is that by the end of it, I kind of got the idea that there was a wisdom, a lesson there. There was an effort to explain the relationship between us as human beings and the deity, master of all, creation of all, this God thing, the force, whatever. And it had such an impact on me that at the time that it was like Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, and he, picked the goblet. You chose wisely, Yeah. And so it was that moment. It was a point to where I go, okay, I get it. It's a leap of faith.
Yeah.
And I made that decision that normally as a, an older person, certainly now, that surrender that you give is less likely as you get older, unless you're in a foxhole. I mean, there's no atheists in foxholes kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the, tragedy kind of brings with like a lot of stuff that's going on now. And so what happened was I was a photographer doing like yearbooks for churches, because I used to be a photographer a lot, and I worked for a company that did that in Texas. And it just got to the point that I could see, and I was really impacted by, different services that I had witnessed and so on. And I could see it was time for me to make a decision. Mm-hmm. And I go, okay, I get it. I did all the research and where this came from to kind of, did, critical and being cynical about a lot of things. But I go, okay, I get it. There's good here.
Yeah.
I can feel it. And once you accept Christ as your Savior kind of, thing, you make the prayer, you do it. I had the immediate major you chose wisely feeling.
Yeah.
It just had, whoa, okay, I did not expect that.
Yeah.
So that confirmation was what really kind of set me down this path. So it was, as you get older, that act of surrender becomes less likely.
Okay.
But as time goes on, you have a real manifestation of things in your life that steer you that way. And you're such a good kid, that young man, man. That was one thing. When do you make that transition? When are you a man? I'll tell you when it happens. Is when you are the protector and take responsibility for the protection and sustenance of your wife and your children. That's when you're a man.
Yeah.
Boom. You get to check that box off. It's not, hey, I made love, man. Woo, I'm a man. It's like, I got a girlfriend. I got married. I'm a man. No.
No, taking that responsibility on as a man.
It's being a man. And that's one thing that I thought Charlie Kirk was really good at emphasizing. Yeah, we could go for a long time. I got to get going, but I'm telling you, Robert,
good.
Thanks for spending this time with me and the audience. And this is a series because when the preparation, the book came out that Doug Casey did, it really hit me finally. Somebody that, and not from any particular persuasion other than just to be a man. And I'm going, wow, this is so necessary. And there's a lot of other stuff out there, what Charlie Kirk was doing, we're very supportive of. And it was so important for me to have people that I could tap on to, because my kids, hell, no way they'd come on, talk, you're not profiting your own land. That's the first thing. But for you to come on and be that example for other young men and people to know that the future, there's possibilities. Generation Next does not suck that much if they had good parents. And there is the importance of that, and I think we're going to see it in a reduction in university attendance over the next year or two. I think you're going to see, I'm paying how much to get what?
Yeah.
I think that's going to plummet, and it's going to be obvious, and it's going to be dramatic. What do you think?
I 100% agree. There's a lot of people going into the job market right now that I know personally that haven't been able to find a job, even coming from Riddle or other institutions. Like, the job market is absolutely crazy right now for people with a trade. And that's just like, I feel like there's been an overhyping, even going all the way back to like middle school, of like, you go to college, you get a degree, and then that's how you set your life up. And that might have been true maybe like 10, 20, 30 years ago. But as we're like, more and more people are going to need plumbers, more and more people need aircraft mechanics, more and more people need roofers. And being able to have like a tangible skill, I think, is going to be very important for people.
Yeah, like be a pilot doesn't crash.
Exactly. Exactly.
This is it's been great. We could go on and on and on, but I really appreciate you coming on, Robert. We may, I think we need to do this again, certainly within a year or so. I mean, we're all living vicariously through you. You know that. So
I would love to join the show, and hopefully the next time we do this, it'll be in person on your set. I do miss the Love Bus. Have you started a new set yet over at your property, or are you still on the Love Bus?
Well, the Love Bus is on the property. I mean, we've been out here since last October. We brought it was the end of November. We brought the bus out. I had the tractor. It took me 4 months to clear the roads and get it so I could bring the bus out. That's what was going on,
Gotcha.
In 120-degree weather. So it's a challenge. It's a thing. Yeah, we got occupytheland.org. You go there, You'll see the videos, of us doing all the stuff. We're learning a lot, and that was why, we wanted to emphasize Occupy the Land. It was for you.
Yeah,
it was Generation Next. Stop being freaking, have the vampire squid alien, impregnate you thing on your face and interest to the banks and whatever. Get off of that hamster wheel. Get out and actually be self-sufficient, self-sustaining. Yes. We have communication with Starlink. We have access to water. We got, we can grow our own food. We have, our own power. We had a lot of these things, even a few years ago, were not available.
Yeah.
And we knew they were coming, though. I'm telling you, it's going to get possible to maintain and enhance the high standard of living in a first world country that we want, and do it out in the middle of freaking the nothing. And we're out there. You are in the nothing. I'm in nothing west, okay? This is, okay, just tell your friends. I don't know if you noticed this. When the constellation Orion comes up, you have the 3 stars at the belt of Orion, you got Orion.
Yep.
When you're out far enough, you have this star cluster that's below the belt. It looks like he's got a penis, okay? You don't see that in the city.
No, you do not.
But out here, it's like I'm going, what the hell is that? Orion's got a penis? I never noticed that before. So I go on a search engine and I go, Orion's penis. Sure as shit, pops up all over the place.
That's
that's
crazy.
Orion's penis. And I go, you're not far enough out if your Orion doesn't have a penis. Just say it, okay? So you need to share with people, hey, I lived where Orion had a penis, And Bob and I started noticing it was October. We went back to, where he was from, his home that he inherited back in Massachusetts that he sold to his nephew or whatever. That we were back there, and that was when the Joker came out, with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
And we're like, what the shit was that, man? What? And it was kind of a prelude to this, it was kind of indoctrination, Hollywood kind of, here comes Portland burning down, whatever. And, your dad goes, a great Cullen is coming, because all the customer service, everywhere we went to the store to get, it was just, what the crap, especially coming from Arizona.
Yep.
And a great Cullen is coming. And we could see that, there was this thing, and we were immersed in it, and you didn't really see it, especially if you lived more rurally out here.
Yeah.
And when you go into this, you're like, just the attitude, it was just amazing. Well, that's going away, and people like you, and that's what I'm encouraging of the audience, if you're a young person or you have influence on a young person, or you'd like to, heck, you could go be surrogate grandpa to these kids down the street of something. I mean, and it's so, like your dad does Civil Air Patrol.
He's out here still making a difference every day to these young people's lives. I've seen it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off again, but yeah, he's out here changing. Even after having stepchildren, he was taking care of me and Danny. He is now taking on the responsibility of still nursing the active minds of the youth, and that's through Civil Air Patrol. And I'm very proud of him for doing that. It's not a very easy thing to be going out doing.
And that's why he does it. He's going, these kids have nowhere else to go. He started, like with your brother, Dan, because he's a pilot, and then he got busy and so on. But he saw the benefit of it. Plus, he gets another line on his life skills of whatever, because that's just Bob. But the these high school kids, and he's doing, it's like, man, awesome.
Yeah.
Be a good neighbor. Rule 1, don't be a dick, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And, your dad's like, I go, I need some help. He goes, yeah, but it's over 100. I'm not, talk to me when it's under 100. Maybe I'll think about it. So, he if I really needed him to come out, he would. But, So this is such a good example of your upbringing and what it produced. And that's what I want to encourage everybody with. And to have a book like The Preparation that gives you a curriculum rather than spending a gazillion dollars, which your education was a gazillion dollars. And, but weren't you like, what was your grade point average coming out of high school?
A grade point average, I think I was sitting at a 3.6 coming out of high school.
Slacker! What did you get in college?
In college, I graduated with a 3.5. So still
Slacker!
hanging out there. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're a smart kid, but it wasn't like your end all be all was, 4 point whatever,
Yeah.
But you were a good student and you took it seriously. I'm so glad that you spent the time with me. Thanks, Robert. It's good to catch up with you, man. I look forward to seeing you. Are you going to come out for the holidays?
I'm planning on trying to make a trip out there soon, whether that be for the holidays or directly right after that, so that way I can come back and check out the property, see how everything's going back in Arizona, give my brothers a hug, my dad a hug, my mom a hug, because I miss them. I miss them dearly. Don't get me wrong, Florida's a great state, but it is in Arizona.
Yeah, well, I always hug on you, whether you like it or not. So you can come out here and see what we got going on. It's been great, Robert.
Yep.
Peace, brother. I look forward to watching the rest of your life.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you for having me on. Any young people out here listening to the show, keep pushing forward. Look for those hard experiences that'll make you a better person, because those will pay dividends in your lifetime. 100%. 100%. That's the message I want to leave your audience here. If there's any young people out there, and if you know anyone that's going through it, or it was a young person who you have a direct influence on, push them in the right direction. Push them to make them hard decisions that'll better them in the life. That's all I really got to say. Thank you, Ernie, again for having me on your show.
Peace, brother.
Peace.
Thanks.
Have a good one.